Hi, everybody, and welcome to our webinar. I'd like to introduce you to Angie Thomas, who's the Horticultural Communications Manager with Yates. She's going to tell us about some of the new products, and she's also going to introduce Nick Watts, who is joining us on this webinar, who has helped develop or has developed this wonderful new organic insecticide that we're going to hear the story about. So I guess without further ado, Angie, I'll ask you to start sharing your screen and tell us what you want to tell us about Yates and the new products.
Oh, thanks, Jen. Hopefully
sorry, Angie, I forgot to say people can ask questions as we go along, but if you could mute yourselves just so we don't get any background noise, that'd be great.
Hopefully you can see my screen now, everybody. Brilliant. All right, so thank you so much for having me on. I really appreciate the time. Thanks everyone for making time in your busy days. Hopefully you've got a cup of tea or something as well. But we've had a very busy year in Yates, and looking forward to sharing all our new products with you. So we've got lots of things happening in new insecticide space. We've got a new application system for various new products, and we've also got some new lawn products as well. So hopefully you'll enjoy hearing about all this, and I'll introduce Nick shortly, and he's going to tell you of some of the origins of this fantastic new product. So the new insecticide that you might have seen as part of the media release, we've got a brand new product called Yates Organic Garden Pest Killer. And it is a fantastic new product that I hope a lot of you will get to try and try it out in your own gardens, because what it is, it's a new bee-safe insecticide, which is absolutely fantastic. And the reason why I've got the blue butterfly pea plant there will become evident in the very near future, because that's what it was been created from. So the product in the Yates bottle that you can buy in all sorts of places, it's open to every channel, including independent hardware and nursery. So it's made from the blue butterfly pea plant. So it controls a range of really common insect pests like caterpillars, whitefly, and mealybug. Use it as a foliar spray on veggies like tomatoes, your brassica and cucurbit veggies, and also lily pillies. But you can also use it as a drench to control curl grubs in garden beds and potted plants, which is brilliant. It can be used on edible and ornamental plants in pots and garden beds, which is fantastic, because up until now, we haven't had anything that we could recommend for curl grub control for edible plants. Neem works really well as a drench, but we haven't been able to recommend it for edibles, so now we can. So it's a fantastic product, safe for bees and other beneficial pollinators, and formally approved for use in organic gardening. So we're so fortunate to have been able to work with Nick, who I will introduce now. So Nick Watts is from Innovate Ag, and he's the reason that this new product exists. So it exists commercially, but we're very lucky at Yates to be able to bring this to the home garden market. So Nick, if you would like to introduce yourself, and I've got some slides from Nick as well that I can show as we go along.
Yeah, sure. Well, firstly, thanks to everybody for having me. This is the first of me doing a webinar like this, so I'm looking forward to it. And I will definitely encourage everybody to stick their hand up and ask questions if they've got something as we go along. And you can probably go ahead and do the first slide. I've got a little cheat thing that I do at the start of a lot of talks, and that's play a video. It's only a minute long, but it's an important little sort of scene setter, I think.
Sure.
Now you should have to share. There we go.
Bees are absolutely essential to agriculture across the world, and a lot of the products that we've got out there do have a negative impact on bees.
The Sero X product is an extract from the plant Clitoria ternatea, or butterfly pea, and it's a plant that's been noticed to...
Oh, why is that stopped?
Yeah.
Not be affected by insects in the field.
The plant, over its evolution, has decided that it needs to protect itself from predators, but it's not in the plant's best interest to attack bees or lady beetles or wasps, anything that protects it, so it doesn't attack them.
Butterfly pea has the ability to make these molecules called cyclotides, and cyclotides disrupt the cells and make the insect feel very uncomfortable to the extent that it doesn't want to eat that plant anymore. If the insect eats enough of the cyclotide containing insecticide, then it will die. Sero X is really unique in the world as a product because it's that cocktail of many different cyclotides that gives it its extreme potency in the field. The other thing that's unique about it is it's natural, and therefore it will break down using natural processes, and so won't leave toxic residues in the soil.
I love the idea of something that's been in the natural world for millennia and us taking the best of it and putting it into a product that benefits us all.
So that shiny fellow you saw there at the end is indeed me. It's a couple of years old, and I always get horrified when I see that clip at the end there. But anyway, so yeah, I'm the managing director of Innovate Ag. We've been in operations for quite some time now, but we've got a sister company in growth agriculture as well, who you'll hear a bit about as we go through here. Yeah, so I'll just plough on, will I, Angie? And yeah, and please do.
Right.
Yep, stick their hands up if they've got questions. I prefer these things to be conversations rather than me sort of talking to empty crowds. So please do ask questions if you've got them. What I do here in this, people talk about paddock to plate a lot, and I put this up here simply because it's a really important thing that we can show that we have traceability, not just from paddock to plate, but we start at the paddock, go to the plant, and then go to two plants actually, because it goes to a manufacturing facility in Goondiwindi, and then so paddock to plant to paddock when we put it back out on the paddock, and then back onto your plate, and we can trace that the pesticide the whole way through. And this is, I'm talking mostly in a commercial setting here, and you'll have to forgive me if I continue to use Sero X rather than organic garden pest killer, which is a bit more of a mouthful, but you can go to the next one now. Thanks. So the plant in Plant X. Now, Plant X, some of you might, the Latin speakers amongst you might have recognized Sero as Latin for plant. That's because we're just terrible marketers and we couldn't think of anything else, basically. The original product plant, when product was being developed early days, was called Plant X because there was a Plant X, a Plant Y, a Plant W, a plant all the way through. And so I put this picture up mostly just to show people that it is a plant, and you've seen the video already, so it's not the same issue here, but we always get the question from someone in the crowd asking us how, when we talk about butterfly pea extract, how we catch the butterfly's urine. And that's, we don't do that. We do indeed grow the plant. And is that a question there? No, so it's, yes, very popular in across Southeast Asia, mostly for the dye. Now, that's something you'll get to if you go to the next one. The pics, this is us growing the crop. That's basically how we do it. It's like lucerne, if anybody's seen a lucerne crop baled. That's how it looks in the paddock, and that's how we grow it, we bale it. Once we put it into a bale like that, the cyclotides, which you heard about being such an important part of the pest profile, pest control profile, they are locked into that plant material basically for good. As long as the plant's growing when it gets cut, then they stay there forever. For as long as we can measure them anyway. That blue flower there, we don't have any particular need for the flower. It does have some active constituents in it, but mostly it's in the leaf and the plant, in the plant material. So the blue dye comes from the leaf, comes from the flower, sorry. Yeah. Next one. So our process, we like to think that we don't actually, we don't synthesize, we don't make anything actually. The plant does all the making for us. We just simply process it. And we do that at a manufacturing facility in Goondiwindi. And from there it goes out to the world. One of the things that we were talking about the origin story of this product. It's got a lot of grandfathers and a lot of fathers too. It's I've been involved since 2006. So that shows my age. That's when we started. Well, I started on this project, but there were a couple of years before that where people had been working on it as well. We are a regional success story for working with government institutions and research collaboration bodies like CSIRO, New South Wales DPI. That's where we've worked alongside those guys the whole way through. The initial product was, well, the initial discovery was made by a New South Wales DPI chief scientist who was he was just a brilliant entomologist. It's Dr. Robert Mensah, and he noticed that when he was growing the crop he was looking at doing refuge trials, actually trying to keep insects in a crop for as long as possible. And it was an absolutely terrible refuge crop because no insects would go near it. So if you planted it alongside something like sorghum or anything like that, the sorghum would get decimated, but nothing would touch butterfly pea. That's lots of the plants, well, in fact, all the plants that have survived the evolutionary process have got defensive mechanisms involved in them. There's this war that goes on between insects and plants over the millennia, and they evolved their different strategies for defending against the insects. But this plant has evolved a set of compounds, and a diverse set of compounds it's nothing else like it in the natural world as far as we can tell. It's absolutely fascinating, and it is the terminator of the plant world, if you ask me. So one of the things that's really important to think about in terms of the safety profile of the product, lots of people talk about bee safety or being bee safe, and what does it really mean? So something can be non-toxic at an acute level, and that's important. But if it's not toxic at the acute level, but then still is toxic at a chronic level, and a small dose or something like that can build up in a population, that can sometimes be more damaging than just an acute toxicity. What we've got with our plant, so we don't do anything here, we just harness the power that the plant produces. We've got something that the compounds that can only work against insects or arthropods, I should say, because there's also mites and other arachnids that we have impact on, but any arthropod that eats plant material. So a plant material, anything it's called phytophagus, but it's basically if you get your nutrition from plant material, then we will have, or this plant can defend itself from you, and that's where what we've done basically. So the pollinator safety data that we've developed, it's as good as you can ever see at an acute level. Basically, we cannot kill a bee. And good question about microbial population in the soil. I'll talk to that. So what is it? 100 micrograms there that you see as it's been set as the LD50 for pollinators. That's just because you can't feed them anymore. That's the highest dose possible you can give them in a dose. So there is no acute toxicity, and we've also done behaviour studies and things like that to show that there's no behavioural impacts. Those compounds that you heard Professor Craik talk about are a type of peptide that can break down. They're robust enough for us to get them out of the plant, but they break down quite quickly once they're exposed to the environment. And in terms of the microbial population, so we have to do things like carbon and nitrogen transformation studies as part of the efficacy, or as part of the environmental toxicity package for the APV with the APVMA registration. There is no impact on. It's neither good nor bad. There's a little tiny piece of the polyethylene glycol, which is one of the co-formulants in the plant, is basically soap or detergent, really, but only a very mild one. So there's no impact on anything that we've seen in the soil. Indeed, it has a stimulatory effect on plants too. We don't necessarily know how that mechanism works, but there is something in there that makes a plant respond as well as controlling the insects. Yeah, you could go to the next one, Anne, please. So what we've done is something that's, and I mean, I can't believe that I can still say this actually, but it's true that we're the only company that's ever taken a product from discovery all the way through to being registered in Australia on the shelves of Bunnings and now around the world. And that's quite sad actually. It's sort of a pity that because we have so many great discoveries, and there's plenty of really good pesticides that have been discovered here, but they've all had to either go overseas for funding, or they haven't they've stalled in the development process. So I think that's a bit sad, but I'm still proud to be the first one to do it. And so we're in, I think it's 67 countries that we have products or registrations either started or are close to being finalized. So and I don't obviously we don't do that from here. We've got an international partner now that does that stuff around the world. So yeah, it's pretty cool. From Gundawindi, or actually it was initially discovered in Weewar, which is in northwestern. That's where I'm from. It's a little cotton farming community out in northwest New South Wales. Yeah. Okay. So was I right about the? Oh no, not 60. It's 36. There you go. My dyslexia is playing up on me there. It's 36 countries that we're in. So we've got registration or information or data that would enough to suit a registration for 77 pests, and so far one disease, but the rest of the diseases are going to come. And people often sort of ask how something can control an insect and also a disease like a fungus. They're two completely different modes of action. The reality is the plant defends itself against both. And it doesn't get diseases either. And so we've just got to find and harness those particular sets of compounds that do the disease ones now as we develop. Yeah. 62 crops, and we've been doing 12 years of in the field studies. So it's quite some body of work that we've developed now. Well, so this is just some of our partners really. We've been fortunate to work with the best and brightest in the world in David Craik's team. So he's a rock star scientist. He's one of those people that literally there's people that scream when they see when they meet him. He's going to get a Nobel Prize one day. He certainly should. He'll be the guy that things like Ozempic insulin's a really famous peptide. He and his team are working out how to have that as a swallowable tablet so that there won't be a need for millions of people to get injections in the for their insulin. So that's the sort of guy he is, and he's our another grandfather of Sero X, because the cyclotides were his initial discovery. Actually, those cyclic peptides were something that he discovered. So yeah. Yeah, that's all I've got on a slide point of view. I could talk to anything else, or is there any questions at all as we now?
Thanks very much, Nick. It's just fascinating. It's absolutely fascinating. And on behalf of Yates and all home gardeners everywhere, I appreciate you offering up this technology to us, because it's a really exciting time to be able to control common pests and feel good about it. And that's a really wonderful thing.
I probably should talk about describe how it works actually, because that's one thing I didn't do. So you'll notice a couple of different things about using products like this, and this is things that most home gardeners want to see. They don't want to see napalm or use napalm or anything particularly toxic in their home gardens. And the same is true for farmers, and that's who I work with on a daily basis. They don't want to use those products either. They want to use products that are safe for their families, because they usually live on the farm, so they don't want to be spraying things around. And so we've always found that growers were our biggest supporter. There's no doubt that they are trying to make a living out of their crops, so we have to do the right thing by them and have a product that works. It's as simple as that. There's no hiding in a commercial situation. You have to have a product that can go toe to toe with all the other products out there. And like, we don't do it, the plant does it for us. And the first way that you'll see it working is by an anti-feeding effect. It's similar to repellency, but they are two different things. So anti-feeding is literally that the pest or the arthropod will get a sense that what it's going to eat is bad for it. And how that mechanism works, that's another Nobel Prize for somebody to work out probably, but it's certainly there, and we know that it's everyone who works with insects or plants would recognize that. If they do eat it, just like us, if we're really hungry, we'll eat something that's bad for us anyway, and so that can happen. Biochemical signaling, that's exactly what it is, but it's what that how those that interaction works that we'd love to be able to pin down. So that if it gets enough of a dose of the cyclotides, as David said, I think they will die, and it's a cell membrane disruption. So we can see it pass through gut walls. They're like little bullets, actually, is the way to describe it. And so they're a physical damage almost internally. It's not like a virus or a bacteria or anything like that. It's actually a physical disruption. So that direct mortality, as we would call it, is only one part of the profile of the efficacy. And in fact, it's the least important, strangely enough, because the important thing for us anyway is to protect the plant that you're trying to protect, not to kill the insect. The insects, farmers don't sell dead insects, or they don't sell the lack of insects too. It's really about making sure that the plant is protected as best it can be, and that anti-feeding is the most important part of it, probably. The other thing that's cool is there's a mating behavior disruption that can present itself in different ways depending on the insect or on the pest. For moths, so lepidopterans, and particularly Heliothis is the one that's the most dramatic. It'll confuse them, and they will do this thing called panic laying, and they'll put all their eggs in one basket. And Heliothis like to spread their eggs out around so that they can spread their offspring as far and wide as possible. And they do that to protect their offspring because they would eat each other if they're next to each other. So they're cannibals. The first thing they'll do is try and go for another egg if they can, when they wake up, when they hatch. And so that panic laying makes them put all their eggs, well, not all, but they do that in these clumps. And that means that the first grub that hatches wins, because he eats all the brothers and sisters. And then most of the time he's big enough to go to ground then. So we in the early days, we had these calls of alarm from tomato growers, particularly for these giant grubs that were coming out of there, like on the top leaves, because they usually move a bit down before they get that big. That was because they were eating their brothers and sisters and getting big and fat up the top and then heading down to the soil afterwards. So those sorts of things are really interesting. They're harder to measure the impacts of those. Obviously you can see it in reduced damage again, but it's hard to tell the difference between that and the repellency sometimes. But yeah, so there's just those three modes of action are from an arthropod point of view. That's the ones. Yeah. Any, Graham?
Not while we lived here.
No, thanks very much for that, Nick. It's fascinating that this one extract has so many different modes of action to help reduce damage in backyard tomatoes and backyard cabbages, and to take it from the commercial market to home gardeners is fantastic. Do you have plans to expand the pests on your label or the plants that it can be sprayed on?
Yeah. I mean, and that's a job of every. We do it all the time. We're expanding our claims. It's expensive to do, frankly. In Australia, it's per pest and per crop. So you've got to do it for each one. And we've been focusing a lot on the disease, on the development of the sclerops that they can control. And so anything that's got a sclerotal phase, which is a terrible sounding word, I know, but it's the sclerotal phase of the fungus. If it's got one of those phases, then we can have some impact on it, not directly on the fungus, but on the life cycle, like that life stage of it. So yeah, we keep going, and we're working with you guys too. You guys got some things on the label that we hadn't done. We hadn't done low and grub. There's not much call for it in our world, but it was good to see. And I think it's mealybug too that you've got as well, isn't it? Yeah, yeah.
On lily pillies, yeah.
Yeah,
so
that's right.
we will help label expansion where we can, which is fantastic. But it's really good to have that curl grub claim, because you often see people over, I don't know why my potted plant has failed, and I've dug it up, and all of a sudden there's a mass of curl grubs in the pot. So it's a really fantastic tool to add to people's arsenal of plant care.
Yep.
Can I ask, is there a downside to this amazing chemical? Because
there is, yes, of course there is. And it is. I'm glad that you said chemical then, Jennifer, because a lot of people don't say that word. It is a chemical. They're natural chemicals, but they are chemicals too, and they are chemical compounds that are performing a role and performing a job. We are lucky in that we can take them out of our plant. Most of the time, the plant produces compounds that defend itself that you can't touch. Well, it's the Pandora's box or Schrodinger's cat, or whatever it is. You don't know which one's dead or alive, and that's what happens with the compounds in the leaves mostly, because looking at them destroys them. Whereas because of the nature of our this cyclic peptide that doesn't have a top and a tail, it's more robust, so we can do it. The downside to it, from a commercial sense, is that it doesn't last very long. That's both good. I mean, it's great from an environmental point of view. There's no persistence. You will never find there is peptides for the biochemists amongst us. They know they break down into amino acids. So amino acids are ubiquitous. They're everywhere. There is no secondary metabolite for these things, for these peptides. They are just the natural, amino acids of the world. So that process of denaturization or splitting apart that happens as soon as we start applying it. Some of it happens because it's called structural related activity. So once it's done its job, then it's gone. But if it doesn't have anything to do its job on, it will break down within 14 days. Now I know that's not. It doesn't sound like too short a time in a home garden world, I'm led to believe, but we need to get it to it needs to be at least sort of 3 weeks to a month to be used in broadacre cropping, for it to be super pop. Like we still get that pushback that they don't want to have to make an application as often as they do need to. But yeah, that's something that we are getting there with that, and sometimes people are just going to have to learn new practices too, because there'll never be another Roundup. No one's going to make one because they don't want to find it in a human tissue somewhere in 20 years' time or anything like that. So these natural compounds are here to stay, and that's what. So it should be. Yeah, should have been 20 years ago. But
just to add some extra detail there, the reapplication timing on the Yates product label is 7 days. So. That can be your Saturday morning ritual, is to go out and protect your tomatoes and your cabbages and control curl grubs and things like that.
And don't wait for big populations either. It's a prophylactic as much. Keeping insects out is the goal, and we do that successfully. Once the population gets really big, it's hard for a product like this that doesn't have that sort of smoke them out activity to get the population under control. We can, but it just takes more time, and there's a lot of damage that's done in that time. Yeah.
Will it deter possums from vegetables? That'd be great.
I don't think so. We haven't got the right type of metal in there. No.
Okay. Worth a try.
Yeah. Blood and Bone does that though, doesn't it? I hear you can put some liquid blood.
Yeah, but my dog eats it then.
There you go.
Then,
Helen wants to ask a question.
To Angie and Nick. So I presume if it breaks down easily, it's not ever going to be sold in a ready-to-use formulation. It'll always be the concentrate.
So that's being worked on as we speak, and so the answer is yes, it will be. It's whether or not it's going to be ready to use in the traditional what other ones look like. It might have a different formula, co-formulant than what's in some of the other ones. They don't break down. It's when they're exposed to UV that starts that process mostly. So you can formulate them, and we can put them if we can put them into the drum, then we can keep them there. It's really what I was biggest concern with the RTU was actually the hydrophobicity of the compounds. They don't like water. They tend to disperse or aggregate and things like that once they're in water for a long time. So that's one point. Don't leave it. I mean, most people don't do that these days anyway. But don't leave a mixed up for a week or anything like that. Use it when you've make enough to use, and use that, and then I mean, if you've got a little bit left over, you can still use it.
And then is there a use by date on the Yates product?
No, there's not. So some of the other biologicals that we've had in the past, like Dipel, has an expiry date on it, but not this one. So usually when that's from an APVMA registered product, the expectation is you would use that bottle within 5 years, but it doesn't say anything on the bottle about a use by date.
No, there's nothing alive in our product. It came from something alive, of course. So biological is source, but it is not biological itself. They're all inert, and we can find them in products we made 7 years ago, and at the same level. So they're quite remarkable, really.
And Jackie's asked about fruit fly.
So fruit fly, funny thing. So fruit fly, it's the depending on which one. So the Japanese one, there's a Drosophila Suzuki, and that one we can do a really good job of controlling. But the Queensland one, there's something about it that it's very, very it doesn't behave the way it behaves like a Queenslander, actually, and doesn't do what it's told very much. And it's so we don't have good control on not consistent anyway. We'll have we haven't found the cyclotides that work on those ones yet. It's when, because they lay their eggs. The fruit, they lay their eggs in the fruit as well. I think
they put the maggots. Yeah, the maggots hatch in the fruit.
Yeah, but then they don't actually eat the fruit, do they? The fruit fly isn't eating the fruit. I think it's because it's laying in there. But so that might be part of the reason why we the rule of thumb: if it eats leaves, we can have some control on it. If it doesn't, then it's often marginal. Yeah.
So sorry, can I just clarify? There's no contact action. It's just for the bugs that eat the leaves.
No, so if you spray it on a caterpillar or on a bug, there's direct mortality, but it's not as it doesn't get sick from it when it gets a physical cell membrane disruption. So
delay the egg, but it doesn't do that to any of the beneficials.
No. So this is so one of those things that's hard to kind of insects that eat plants have a different kind of gut mechanism to them. There's and they have a different cell structure in some ways, depending on where they get their nutrition from. And that cell structure, these compounds have been developed. Well, they've evolved to work against. The plant has produced them. There's 78 of them so far, we've found, to give you an idea of the complexity, because Mother Nature doesn't do things in singular. They always do, just groups of things working together. So there is no benefit. I mean, beneficial is a term I've always got to be careful of, because sometimes a beneficial is beneficial in some industries and not in another. Thrips are a perfect example. They are beneficial in the cotton industry, but they're not in other ones. So anything that's phytophagous, yes. So some beneficials are phytophagous or can have a phytophagous stage, but anything that's carnivorous or just eats other insects, spiders, ladybirds, those sort of, ladybirds, some of them do. I can't do this catch-all phrase for them, but wasps, things like that, no impact on them at all, or pollinators.
Yeah. Okay. Cool. Thanks.
Yeah. No problems.
There's a couple of other questions. Psyllids, and also which fungal disease? You mentioned one fungal.
Yeah, so psyllids, yes. I think there. You might even have a psyllid claim too, do you, Angie? I thought that was either coming or
it might be something that Evan's working on.
Yeah.
Yeah. So there's mealybug on lilipillies. Yes, what we've got on the label.
There you go. Okay. So the fungal diseases. So far, it's only registered against verticillium wilt, which is tomato farmers, growers might know it. It's avocados. It goes in avocados too, and potatoes, but devastating in cotton. So that's the only one we've got a registration for. It's really a case of if you can find the timing for blocking the sclerotal phase, then we've got a winner. Sometimes you can't do that, even if it is, it's like sclerotinia, or there's the other fungal diseases that have sclerots, but because of when they are, we can't get to them. So there's no commercial mode of action or commercial use case for them. But for vert wilt, we can nail it. And will there be an OCP branded equivalent plan for later release? I can say I think there is already larger. There's a larger size available, and Sero X is the product that is on the shelf. So the Yates deal is very much exclusive with Yates, and Yates are making that available to everybody in Australia. I understand, not just through exclusive channels. It's for the small pack size. And so we've retained and still manufacture and distribute for the any size bigger than a 1 litre, basically.
Right.
Yeah.
Right. Okay. Well, if there's no other questions, wait on, Connie's got one.
That's a great question too.
Yeah.
I'll be quick about this one. If it rains straight away, reply. If there's rain fastness to it, a few days later is fine, because you've got most of the bang for your buck. You will not get as much long-term repellency if it's rained heavily within after the treatment period. But if it rains straight away, then avoid rain if you can.
So check your app on your phone before you spray. So Angie, do you want to continue now about?
Sure. If we've got some time, that would be great. Thank you so much, Nick, for all of that. It's just fascinating. It's I've been using this on my cabbages at home, and they look gorgeous. So if you can call a cabbage gorgeous, so thank you very much, Nick. Just while we finish off, I just wanted to introduce a couple of the new other new Yates products that have been introduced over the last couple of weeks. So one of them is our new Click and Grow garden care system. So basically, we're trying to make gardening and lawn care as easy for people as possible. So we've introduced this fabulous new trigger that you can see on the screen there that connects with a whole range of different pouches of concentrates. So we have in lawn and garden care, just a little bit of a diagram of the Click and Grow trigger there. So it's got more than 70 pieces inside this trigger, because we need to be able to control dilution rates from the various pouches. So that's why it's so complicated. You can actually use the trigger just as a normal hose trigger. You don't have to have a pouch connected, but you can see the pouch connects underneath the trigger. You set an application dial on the top of the trigger, and that dictates the dilution of the concentrate that's then coming out of the hose. And there's different spray patterns as well. So there's wide and narrow and everything in between. So how people can start using the Click and Grow system is they need a starter kit. So at the moment, the starter kits come in Weed and Feed, Munn's Professional Golf Course Green, and Sea Sol. So the Sea Sol that we all know and love. So that's how you start off. You have to have a trigger to be able to use the pouches. So that's how people can start off with Weed and Feed, Munn's Professional Golf Course Green, and Sea Sol. And then there's a couple of different pouches for lawn care. So there's Weed and Feed, which is great for kikuyu and cooch lawns, and that will control most of your broadleaf weeds. And then there's the weed killers on their own. So there's one for kikuyu and cooch lawns and ryegrass, and there's one for buffalo lawns. So it's safe for buffalo. So whatever lawn you've got, there's a product that you can take out your lawn weeds. There's also lots of feeding options, both in the garden and the lawn. So we've got Dynamic Lifter in the Click and Grow pouch. So that's great for feeding and soil preparation. Dynamic Lifter lawn food in a pouch. Munn's Professional Golf Course Green that will feed lawns for up to 3 months. Sea Sol, the standard Sea Sol, and also Power Feed for a combination of seaweed and feeding as well. So lots of different pouches that people can tackle a lot of their weed control and lawn and garden care problems. moving onto the lawn
before you
now.
move on, Gabby
sure.
wants to know about the pouches. Are they made from a what are they made of, and are they recyclable?
So at the moment, unfortunately, they're not recyclable, but one of the benefits, so we're moving towards that. One of the benefits of using these pouches is that the coverage that they have is, like, say, for example, the weed and feed pouch, that little 700 ml pouch treats as much lawn as the 4-litre hose on. So instead of people carrying around and having to deal with the container at the end, that big 4-litre container, now it's a small pouch that flattens out completely when it's empty. So it is something we're definitely looking at from a recyclability perspective. But at the moment, the first step is reducing the amount of waste in the first place. So it's proving to be really popular. A lot of people are getting involved and saying it's much easier than carrying around and storing and using the big hose-ons. So if anybody wants any more information about the Click and Grow system, please get in touch. You would have received a media release on this, but otherwise, please reach out to me separately, and I can talk to you about the Click and Grow. So Munns Professional, there's a couple of new products in the Munns Professional range. So one is a lawn weed preventer. So this is where we're trying to get lawn owners to be put on their proactive pants and get prevention of their weeds. So this particular product will prevent grass weeds like paspalum, crabgrass, summergrass, barnyard grass, and winter grass in lawns for up to 6 months. You can use it on all common lawns, including buffalo. So really trying to reduce the weed pressure by that pre-emergent control. So the next one in the Munns Professional range is a fertilizer called Bioactivator. And this is kind of special. What they've done is created a complete lawn fertilizer and it added microbes to it. So it works like a 2-in-1 multivitamin and probiotic. And as soon as it's watered in, those microbes are activated. Beneficial microbes do all sorts of wonderful things, like helping to unlock nutrients.
Yeah. You'll be here.
Oh, we just got some people in the background. Yeah, so microbes do some wonderful things for soil health and plant health and promoting root growth. So the Munns Bioactivator with microbe technology, it'll also feed the lawn for up to 3 months, which is great. You supply at the beginning of every season and you're good to go. And the next one in the Munns Professional range is the very easy to say Munns Professional Nutgrass Mullumbimby Cooch Broadleaf Weed Killer. I have to say that when I'm doing any recordings, and it's a bit of a mouthful, but it does what it says it does. So it controls those sedge weeds in the lawn like nutgrass and Mullumbimby Cooch, which are really hard to get rid of, and also some common broadleaf weeds, things like cobbler's pegs, you might know them as farmers' friends, variegated thistle and Ngura burr. So a lot of additional ways that people can help keep their lawns weed free. And so that's some of the new products just to finish off in the Munns Professional range. But it's been a very busy year for Yates. Seasol is also introducing new products as well. But between Click and Grow and our new organic garden insect pest killer and Munns Professional, we all need a good lie down after spring because we've so busy. But if any of you want any samples or information about any of the products that we've spoken about, please get in touch and I'll do what I can to help.
Someone needs to mute their microphone. Just before we finish up, and Angie, thank you so much for that. And Nick, there was one more question asked about snails and slugs, which Nick has answered on the question box there. He says that there is a registration pending or hopefully his European colleagues are developing a label claim for snails and slugs, because obviously they eat vegetation. Good. Well, are there any more questions for Angie? No? Well, thank you very, very much, both Angie and Nick, and thank you too for, using HMAA as a vehicle to get this information out, because I think it's terribly important that we can understand the technology and then explain it to gardeners. That's our job really. So thank you for, investing your time and everything into sharing it with us. We really appreciate it. As I said, we will we have recorded this, so it will be available on the website, because you'll probably need to go over it a couple of times to get all the information. And we'll share that link, you know, in the blast on Friday. So thank you again.
Thank you very much.
Thanks very much, everybody.
Yeah.
And we will be having a series of webinars coming up that Judy is organising a couple. So stay tuned, and we'll be sending that information out in the blast. So thank you very, very much. Bye for now.
Thanks, everyone.
Bye-bye.
Bye.
Bye. Great. Thanks, Matt. Share it widely, Matt.
Do you like my waving? I had a couple of students join me in here. We're doing some
great.
holiday planting and other work at TAFE. So.
Oh, good. Yeah, well, I think that's something that's very important to get out to students, is that things are changing all the time and updating. So
that's good. I'll get the the webinar. It's good for the ones currently doing chemicals and the registrations and all that type of background info.
Great.
I was disappointed, Helen, that he didn't answer your first question.
Can we get shares? I didn't pass that one on.